What's going on, guys? It's Elam with another video today. So I'm gonna introduce you today this 3D modeling software called Onshape. So for those of you who don't know what 3D modeling is, it is basically a software in which you can AutoCAD or model or build an object that you can also build in real life. You create the object, and then based off of that, you can build in real life. For example, cars, planes, machines, inventions, almost anything. The sky's the limit. Like the limit is basically your imagination, also. So, for those of you who know a lot about 3D modeling, Onshape is owned by PTC now, which also sells PTC Creo, which is another 3D modeling software. But for those of you who don't know how to 3D model, it's okay. This is what this video is about. I'm going to start teaching you this with Onshape, because Onshape is such a useful tool. Like, it's really easy to learn. I caught on pretty quickly, so now I'm going to teach you guys how to model. So this is what a basic Onshape home looks like. You have folders, documents, kind of like a Google Drive basically, because as recently opened, as your folders here, you have documents, all sorts of stuff. I mainly use this for my robotics team for First Tech Challenge. That's the challenge we're doing right now. So we 3D modeled our whole robot here, modeled all the custom parts, and 3D printed them or milled them or cut them, and then we're currently in the process of building our robot. So let's get started. So on here on the top left, you hit create a document, kind of like a Google Drive basically. So also Onshape is basically kind of like like Excel, compared to Excel is like Google Sheets compared to Excel. So it's online, and then you can collaborate with other people at the same time, and you can share and all that stuff compared to Excel, which isn't online, so you can't collaborate with other people like that. So it's kind of like Google Sheets, Google Drive, like that. So I'm going to name this the cube, and then it's going to show you this screen right here. So here we have this thing right here. So these are three different planes: front, right, and top. There's also back, there's also bottom, and there's also left. But right now it's not important. You just have this, right? So this is called a part studio, as it says right here. You can name it stuff. So I'm going to rename this cube. You'll see why later. I'm going to make a cube later. And so here is where you can make virtually anything you want, any part. It can be whatever. It can be a cube, a rectangle, a sphere, a pyramid, you name it. You can probably make it. An assembly, on the other hand, is different. So you can see there's no planes. It gives you mate features. It says assembly 1. So here you take all those parts that you've created and you put them together. So if I hit the I key or insert, so if you hover over it, it says inserts parts in assembly, and also in those parentheses it says I. That is the keyboard shortcut. I'm a keyboard shortcut type of guy, so I generally use I, or like the keyboard shortcuts to click on the options. But for this video, I'm just going to click over them to show you where they are. But then you have Part Studios. It says no Part Studios available because you haven't created anything. Also, you can go to other documents. You have folders, my team right here. There's also this cool thing called public, where you can insert 3D models that other people have created right here. So all these 3D models that these people have made, you can also insert it in. You can make a copy of it, and then you can also edit a copy of it yourself. So anyways, let's go back to cubes, to the part studio, because assemblies are going to be another video. So I'm going to start with the part studio. So here we have three different planes. So you have top, right, and front. So I'm going to choose the top. All right. So now if you, right here on your top right, you can click where you want to see the plane from, like where you want your view to be. You can be on top or the bottom. You have 6 different sides. You can, if you hit in the corners right here, you can also choose to view it from that view or that view, like that. You can also move this around too. Let's see if I can move it around. Oh, my Onshape froze for a moment. It tends to do that a little bit sometimes when the internet's lagging or something, but this doesn't do it most of the time. So you see, you can move it around. I like to keep mine in the top right because that way it's not like I don't like it in the middle because that's just interrupting my vision. But anyways, I'm gonna click front. Also, the controls for this, I would recommend using a mouse. So middle click, I'm clicking middle click right now, is used to move this. Right click is used to rotating your view like this. So those are the general ones you need to know. Oh yeah, and zooming in and out is using your scroll wheel. You can also use your trackpad if you have a laptop, but it's going to be much harder to use. So just make your life easier and use a mouse. So anyways, let's get to the point. So I'm going to click here on my plane right there, and then I can hit Shift S, or I can hit this button right here called Sketch. Create a new sketch. So this is where you can make a basically kind of like a 2D drawing. So you can make a square, a circle, a rectangle, a triangle. There's no option for making a triangle. You have to use lines. But just for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna make this thing called a corner rectangle. But you can also make a square. So I'm gonna click on the origin, and I'm not dragging out. I'm just moving my mouse out, so you don't have to drag it out. And then you click, and you have a rectangle, right? But you see these weird dimensions right here. I'm going to try to make a 5 by 5 square. So there's this button over here where it's like an arrow with two lines. It's called dimension. Very useful tool because then you can choose how wide or long your rectangle or square is. So I'm going to hover over the line and move my mouse down, and it tells you the dimension of this line, how long it is. So this is like the length of the rectangle right now. I want this to be 5, so I'm going to hit 5 and enter. So now this is 5 inches long, but the height is still this tall. So I want it to be 5 inches tall, so I'm going to 5, and now I have a square. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't take too long to learn. If you're still confused about how I did this, just go back and go back in the video and see how I did it again. So there are two ways you can do this. You can either hit check, and you're left with a 2D image of a square, and then extrude, or you can just do the extrude in the sketch. So right here, it's like a cube inside of a cube. It's called extrude. So you click that, and boom, your 2D image of a square magically turns into a 3D image of a rectangular prism. But I'm going to make this a cube, so I'm going to change this to 5 inches, like that. So there are different types. So add would be like the same thing as new, like extruding, creating into a 3D surface. Remove, I'll get to later. And then also here you have different types: blind, symmetric, up to face, up to part, like this. The ones I normally use are blind and through all. I'll show you through all in later on in the video. So then you just hit check, and you have a cube, 5 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a circle inside this cube. It's going to be a little harder, not too hard, but it's just going to take more steps. So now I don't have to click on this plane in order to make a sketch. I can also click on any of these faces, as long as it's a flat surface. So for example, if it was a sphere, you wouldn't be able to click on the surface of the sphere. So I'm going to click here, and then it turns yellowish orange, and then I'm going to hit sketch, and then now the sketch is going to be on here on this square or cube. So if I do a circle out here, so this is my circle command, so center point circle, wherever you click is going to be the center of the circle. If I made a circle out here and extruded it like I did before, it would show me two parts because these two parts are connected, but that's not what I want. I'm going to show you deleting, how to delete like sketch entities, that's what they're called. So that way if you make a mistake, you can always delete it or hit Control Z. So you can right click and just hit delete sketch entity, and boom, it's gone. It's gone. All the dimensions of it is gone. So now I'm going to make a circle in the middle. So you can hover. The cool thing about Onshape, you can hover over this line and then keep going, and boom, it found the midpoint of that corner. So then now I can do this, keep it on track, and I can also do it for the other line. Boom, the midpoint's right there, and then keep going here, and there is the center of the cube. So I can just move my mouse out, and I have a circle. So let's make this circle 2 inches. So dimensions for circles are different. If you click on the circle, then it's going to give you the diameter. It's going to ask you for how big the diameter you want it to be. But if you click on the circle, it's going to do that. But you can also click here, and then it's going to tell you the distance from the tip of the circle to the line. So let's say I wanted this to be 2 inches. It wouldn't work. So basically what happened is it's overdefined because it's not physically possible, because the circle is centered on the cube, and it's 2 inches in diameter, so it's not possible. So it's going to give you red. So if you have different if you put a dimension and they're all red, you just have to hit escape to escape your dimension tool, and then you hover over these. So I mean, I want my circles centered, so I can just hit Control Z, or I can also delete this. Delete sketch entity, which can also delete dimensions. So sketch entities are circles, like things you can make, like make a 2D drawing out of, and then also dimensions that you can delete the sketch entity of. When a sketch entity is blue like this, so like that, it means it's not constrained to anything. So this could be moved around because there's no dimensions to it. There's no like size definite. You didn't put a definite size to it, and it's not a certain distance away from the squares. So if it's blue, most of the time, like it's just free moving. It's just put in a random spot, and you should like change it or fix it to a spot. Also, I'm gonna show you a line real quick. So I did this, right? I'm going to hit escape. So this cannot be extruded because it's not a polygon, because it's not closed. So, but if I did a line from here to here, notice how it turns gray. So that means that all the sides are closed, like it's a closed shape, and then you can extrude it to make it a 3D shape. But if it's not graded like that, it won't be closed into a shape. Like it won't be extruded at all. So I'm gonna drag here, see, right, delete. All right, back to the circle. So I'm gonna extrude it, right? So Shift E, or this button right here on the top left. So as you can see, it extrudes out the circle, right? So you kind of have like a little cylinder right here. But that's not what I want. I want the circle to go through the cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit remove. Now, as you can see, the circle is going in. I made an indent in the cube. So you can there are two ways you can approach this if you want to go through. You can either hit like 5 inches, and then it's going to go all the way through. Or an easier way to do that is just go back to 1 inch. You can do here, like I said, I was gonna do earlier in the video, through all, and it's gonna automatically go through everything in the shape, like the whole shape. It's just gonna go through the whole thing. So now we have a cube with a circle through it. So I showed you how to do circles and how to do squares and how to extrude both of them and how to add material and remove material. So now I'm going to show you some of these features here. So fillet. So if you don't know, for those of you who are expert 3D models or have 3D modeled before, you know, like it's a round off. It's just another name for round off. For those of you who have never 3D modeled before, it's just rounding the corners. So for example, how this is needed sometimes, like for our competition, we are required to not have sharp ends on our robot just for safety purposes. So this is a really useful tool for that. So I can just either click on a line, and then it's going to round it off like this. So right here it says the radius is 0.2 inches. So basically this is making a circle. So this is part of a circle. That's what the round off is based off. So if I do 0.5, it's going to make it larger because the radius is 0.5. So it's the distance between right here from the tip of this line to right here. It's 0.5 inches. So you can do that. You can click each individual line, or if you want to do the whole square, you can do like this. And boom, it rounded off the circles and it rounded off the other ends of the square. So I'm going to do that to the other side too. Now we have this weird looking shape of a cube with a hole through it right here. So far I've gone over the sketches and also what a fillet or a round is, rounding off the corners. Kind of looks like a frame to me, a little bit to like a picture frame. This part right here, just take this off. This outer part looks like a frame, so you can also make frames with this. One last thing I'm going to show you real quick is this thing called a chamfer. Expert 3D modelers, you know what that is already. For those of you who don't know, you're just cutting off the corners but sharply. You're not rounding it off smoothly like in a fillet, you're cutting it off sharply. So I can click on each individual corner, and then it's just gonna kind of like cut the corner of it and then make it kind of slanted like this. So I'm gonna make it bigger so you guys can see better. So this time it bases it off the distance. So the distance from this endpoint to this endpoint is 0.5 inches. So that's how much you're cutting off of the whole cube. And I did it for all of them. Alrighty. So here is our finished piece. It didn't take too many things, honestly. I've had to do pieces which have taken much longer and had to do much more things, but it's just a simple piece. Last two things, so you can change your part's appearance by right clicking right here. So there's this thing called part 1. Part 1 is the cube, so you can just click on that and then you can edit appearance. It'll show you to this menu. So you can change it to whatever color you want. This color, this color, this color. You can even change the RGB. For those of you who know how to manage the RGB, I really don't too much, so I just use these like colors right here. I'm gonna choose red because why not? And then also right here, this thing called a transparency, or like how clear the thing is. So if I do 0.5, my cube just became clearer right there. So you can kind of like see through it. So if you want to make it like transparent or not, or like not transparent, you can change that. You can change like how clear it is and all that stuff, how much you can see through it and how much you can't see through it and all that stuff. So yeah. So this is custom parts. So main video of how to do a custom parts. If you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and like, share, subscribe, and comment, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell to keep track up with my other videos. I'm also going to try to keep uploading as often as I can and as often as I'm able to. And as always, thank you very much for watching.